Okay, so this is a little fun experiment, a little fun project to show you how I use AI tools to create an auto tagging Lambda on AWS. So the idea for this project is to create a small Lambda function that will auto tag newly created resources if these tags are not present on creation time. And for that, I also wanted to show you how I work with Cursor and with Taskmaster AI. This is a tool in MCP that integrates with Cursor and actually makes it much more productive. So I thought I'd show you how I work and how simple it is to create resources now and to create auxiliary tools for ourselves. These may not be things that we vibe code for our customers, but as internal tools, these are pretty much awesome, and I don't see a reason why not to use them. So let's start. And the first thing I'm going to show is that I'm using the Taskmaster AI. That is, again, this is an MCP. This is a tool created by Eyal Toledano. It's an open source tool that basically helps you add more context to your tasks and whatever you give Cursor or any other coding tool, LLM-based coding tool to work. So the idea is that you create a PRD, a spec, and then it parses it and creates tasks and then expands to subtasks, and it will keep the context there always, and it makes it much easier, and it makes it so you can work on tinier tasks, which means less changes and more relevance for each task. So I think like there's life before Taskmaster with Cursor AI and life after, and I think this is a great tool that you should be using. Maybe in the future Cursor itself will catch up, but again, and if you're using Cloud Code or any other tool, that will make sense as well. But let's go back to the actual task at hand, right? What do we want to accomplish? So we want to create a Lambda function that will listen on event-rich events. So whenever someone creates an AWS resource, we will check to see if it has the right tags. So we want a few tags. We want the owner tag. We want the environment tag for the purposes of this demo. And if the resource does not have these tags, we will try to automatically either guess it, try to figure it out, and auto tag it so we can use it later, especially if you're using it as cost allocation tags. It is important that every resource will have this. And this ties up to my previous video on why you should create cost allocation tags as the first thing that you should do when trying to cost optimize. So this is a great start. Okay, so let's get started. I already installed Taskmaster AI on Cursor. So it is right now, this is a global tool. You will see that you can install it either by as a project scoped MCP or as a global one. I'm using the global one, and it's already enabled. It has my settings. You can just follow with their tutorial just to get that up and starting. You will also see that we're using a blank project, right? I just started from scratch. So I haven't configured the project with Taskmaster or Cursor or anything. So this is a blank slate, and this is what I am going to do right now. So I created a prompt just to get things started. So I'm asking Taskmaster to actually create a task. This will essentially pretty much bootstrap the project. It will initialize the project with Taskmaster, and I'm giving it all the information that we want. Right? I'm telling it that we want to create an auto tagging Lambda, and that we want the following functionality, pretty much what I explained earlier, and that we want to have these specific tags if we can find them, and then maybe inherit them. So if someone creates an EBS volume by creating an EC2 instance, and does not, and they don't have the tags on the EBS, maybe we can try to figure it out later. And then you will see that I added a few other things like, and these are tendencies just to give it more context and avoid some of the usual pitfalls. So we want to create everything using Terraform, right? We want to bootstrap it through Terraform, and I want Terraform to be in its own folder. And we want to use Python for the Lambda, and also just keep it simple. We don't want any adventures. This is a small demo. I don't want to go overboard with anything. Okay, so let's start with this. What will happen is it will probably initiate the project. It will create all the files and then parse the PRD. There's one quirk that will happen, and you will see it soon. Okay, so it's calling the MCP tool, and it will create it. The only problem is it will try to create the local, you try to create a local MCP again, so a second one, and you can see that it try to load it here. So I'm skipping that. I'm deleting that just because I installed it as a global tool. And I'm not going to show how to set up Taskmaster. I'll show you the website and it will be fine. And you can see that now it will parse the PRD. This could take a while, so bear with me. I'll try to fast forward. Okay, now it will start generating the actual tasks. So let's look at the task here. Okay. So the generated tasks are set up a project repository structure, create the folders, Terraform and Lambda code, implement Terraform configuration for Lambda function, implement event page rules in Terraform, implement Lambda function core structure, implement resource, tagging logic, implement unit tests, create deployment script, and create documentations. And the key features. Okay, so now it could be a good idea to actually go over Taskmaster. You will, over Taskmaster, you will see that it created both the PRD, okay, with our objectives and everything, and I'll just keep it all here, all the changes. And then there are the actual tasks here. It keeps it in JSON format, and I can edit it, but for now I'm just going to, I'm just going to ignore it and see how far I can get with just working with it. We can actually start working on these tasks right now. You will see that we will probably break up these tasks to subtasks and then switch context and start a new chat between individual tasks. So what we'll usually do is for each task, I'll use a separate chat just to clear the context or the overall context, and then start a new one. So let's do that. So let's start working on the first task. Maybe let's break it down to subtasks first. Let's see what's going on. So this will take some time, right? Some calls will take 30 to 40 seconds, sometimes more. So what I'll do is I'll just fast forward between them. This will go faster for me, but for you, it might take more time. Okay, so it broke down the tasks to subtasks, and yeah, let's do that. Let's let it run. Okay, so it started adding things to our project. As you can see, with Taskmaster, a lot of the things are just automatically running, which is really nice. Git status. Yeah, just do that. Okay, while it's working, let's look at the actual README file. And as you can see, it started working on the Terraform. We will review it, right? So whenever we have generated code for things like infrastructure, especially if it's an existing project, you should go over it, right? This is not something you can skip, but it's nice to have something doing it for you, all the work for you. Oh, and you can see it added a little diagram. This is better than most engineers' work for the README file. Okay, I'm not sure at this point that it will have the right context for the AWS profile. We'll see how that goes. So it has Terraform in it. Go ahead and do that. But I'm not sure it's going to use the right profile. So validate. Okay, so before we add, so we can add everything just so we have the context, but I'm not going to let it commit because I want to just go over everything first. Right, that will make sense. So let's go over the files it created. Okay, so before we run it, let's look at that. We have the auto tagging. This is pretty straightforward. Yeah, with this demo, I don't mind keeping the state file locally. This is just a demo, but it can definitely do that. Next, let's look at the variables. We have the region, environment, lambda function name, lambda timeout, memory size. Now, just because we just started the project, so it will probably make a lot of changes as we go and as we make changes to the actual files. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have the lambda function. It will use a source. Okay. Lambda function auto tagging. Environment. Okay. And then event bridge. Okay, I don't really care about this for now. It just created it's creating rules for a few resource types because we don't want to actually register and listen on all resource creation, all the resources created, just a few, just so we can set a certain baseline for the tags. Now the IAM, this is something that we should look at. Definitely look at. Lambda tagging policy. Describe tags, get bucket tagging, get object, RDS tagging, tags. Okay, we can later, AWS logs, we can definitely add accounts and make it more fine-grained. But this is the reason that we go over the files, right? Just to see what it's doing. Okay, so I accepted all the files, right? All the changes, and now I'll run it. And I think it's actually stuck. It was actually stuck, so let's continue here and let's say please continue. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so task 2 is to actually validate everything. So for now, I'm not going to switch context because I don't think we've added too much code and context. So let's try to do this. Again, I'm not sure about about the AWS profile. So let's see what happens now. Oh, it's in the wrong folder. Let's let it work by itself. Okay, run. Okay, so it does not, Terraform does not have the credential. Let's see what it will do. Okay, so let's do this. So please update the tasks. So update the spec. So whenever, oh shit. Whenever we use Okay, so I'm telling it to actually update the spec and to so it uses a specific profile when working with these commands. And you know what? I'll do something else. Please, and also create a cursor rule that says the same. Okay, let's see what happens. So I want to use a specific profile when working, just to add that when it starts in terminal, just to load that. Let's see what happens. Okay, it will update the actual purity. So cursor rules are more like suggestions, right? It's not something that will definitely be used, but hopefully cursor will add it to the as additional context. So I'm hoping that will help us. Okay, let's see if that happens. And it updated all the files. Cool. Okay, you can see the actual file that we have. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's update the documentation. Okay, so we want to continue the task. Please continue where we left off. Okay, typo. Never mind. Okay, let's run this. Oh, whoa. What's going on? Auto tagging. Let's see what it does. It wants to add a new script. Check if the AWS profile credentials are valid. Account, caller ID. Check the directory. Terraform, yellow, Terraform. I think this is an overkill. You know what? But I can just tell it that this seems to be an overkill and just use it. Let's see, what should I do? Yeah, let's do it. Let's see if that script works. But this is an example where it gets a little too creative in most cases, and probably if this would have been something I'll deploy somewhere else, I would probably tell it this is an overkill, and then it will adjust. But I'm just trying to save some time and see how it copes and show you like how this whole thing happens. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, whatever, AWS profile. So we've spent a lot of time just setting things up. And I know this seems like you might say, yeah, this will take me less time to do it myself. But I think you're wrong. I think this will actually, this thing as a whole task will take you more time manually than to create everything manually than to use this. Okay, so now we're looking at the tasks. Let's go and implement task number 3. So for this, I'll open a new chat just to clear the context from everything. And let's tell Taskmaster, so I want to start working on task number 3. Let's see, sometimes when you start a new chat, this is good. So it automatically used Taskmaster, but sometimes you need to hint it to use the tool. Yeah, configuration seems to be valid. Okay. And you can see it did not use the actual tool, the actual script that it created, but that's fine. It did pick up on having to set the profile, and I'm really happy about this. Okay, this is pretty nice, right? It finds a problem, potential problem, and it goes and it will research by itself, and this is what we want, right? Just to sit back and relax while it's doing the research. Excellent research. So it pats itself on the back and gives itself a handshake. See, it picks up that it doesn't have any subtasks, which is great, and it will probably create all the subtasks for task number 3. Okay, let's see what it does. Well, now let's review the file that is state pending. Okay, I'm going to trust it with these changes. Okay. So these are indeed changes to the actual rules, which I haven't checked myself, so let's trust it. Okay, and then validate again. Success, probably run plan now. Yep. See how hands-off this is? This is pretty amazing. Okay, so it finished updating the Eventbridge rules, and now it's suggesting to actually go ahead and move to the next task and create the actual Lambda. Now in this case, because our previous task was rather small, and actually I want the context from it, right? We updated the events themselves and the reasoning behind that, so maybe we'll keep that and not create a new task. And actually, okay, move to task number 4. Okay, let's move on to task number 4. First, let's break it down to subtasks. Yeah. Let's see what it comes up with. And now we're actually starting to actually work on the Lambda function itself and the logic and the business logic that we want for tagging. This is where I think we will spend most of our time. Even though lately I've noticed that for projects, the code is actually easier for it, while everything deployment related is not optimal when I'm using these LLMs. Right now, you can see that I'm using Claude Sonnet 4. Sometimes I'll switch between other models. And by the way, just a really good trick. So if you find yourself in a loop where nothing works, my suggestion is do one of two things. So first, create a new context. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes you just need to switch the model and change the model. And because we have the task context, it will be easier, I think. So if you do reach a point where you're just in a loop with Cursor, you ask it for changes and it changes things in a bad way, and you ask it to fix it, and then it happens again and again. That's what you should do. Start a new chat and also consider changing the model. Okay, so it added a few subtasks. Set up a Lambda handler and logging, implement event routing logic. Cool. Integrate error handling. Yeah, we should have that. Define resource. Specify tagging function placeholders. Develop unit tests for Lambda handlers. Okay, I don't mind having some tests. I found that sometimes in projects where you have some logic, it really helps having tests, because then Cursor can run these tests as it goes along. As you've seen that it runs validate, it's also very helpful to have actual unit tests. And if you don't have to write them yourself, that's even better. Yeah, you can see it goes back to, it's about to revert some of the changes that it introduced in the previous task. We'll see how that works. I don't mind at this point. Task 4 depends on task 1 project. Yeah, let's start. Yeah, you see there are some changes here that are happening. That's why I didn't fret over the actual Terraform file yet, just as I think there will be a lot of changes as we go along, as it learns about this material more, does more research. Okay, now it's writing a unit test. That's great. I think tests are essential when working with these LLMs, especially as the project grows, and you need to keep track and keep ensuring that it is on the right track and doesn't do any breaking changes. I've had that in a different project, and we had some very fine-grained business logic and things that we had to do, and it kept changing them and breaking it until we started adding more and more tests. And once we did that, it actually checked and fixed everything before completing tasks. So that was very important. Okay, so what did it do? Okay, so we added the tests here. We'll go over it in a second. Okay. Okay, so it finished task number 5 that does the tagging logic. Again, we have the actual Lambda here that does the tagging. It get the user from the event and probably have to user email. So how does it convert username to email format? User email has to be some mapping somewhere. Oh, you see, in production, you'd want robust user lookup. We'll see how that works. It's an iterative process, right? I don't mind testing. Oh, here. Check account level tags. And these are mocked events, demo account mapping. So I'll probably have to do that. So this is interesting. So it will try to map these accounts. I've added a tag to the account, so we might want to change that later. Inherit information tags from ECBS. That's the use case where we wanted to inherit from EC2 resources from its parent resource. I guess if this were to go on production, And to be a real solution, we'll have to map more cases and have it come up with more cases, similar cases, right? Where it inherits from the parent. This is where it gets the existing tags, apply tags to resources. Okay, so this is, I don't like the mapping here that we have to do, but for now this is fine. And again, we can iterate on it later. So we have a run tests. Okay. Let's continue with task 5. Let's see what's left on task 5. Let's add a subtask to add. Okay, I added a new subtask just to add more sophisticated owner lookup. And you can see that, okay, so by reviewing some of the code, I was able to pick up on that, but it did as well, right? So this is pretty neat. Okay, so it will expand, and let's see what it comes up with. But what I'm going to do, I don't want to actually implement that. So I'm guessing after it adds the new subtask, we will move to task 6 and then 7. I just want to see it deployed and then move on. And I also don't like to have this hard-coded. Okay, it added more subtasks. Do you want... No, I actually want to move... no. Okay, so I want to move to task number 6. Let's get full task list, please. Okay, I want to see the rest of the tasks. I just want to see... I want to deploy something just so we can start testing things before we enhance it. You can also ask it about task complexity, which is really nice. Pending tasks. So we have task number, implement unit tests. I think it started doing that. And then create a deployment script. It already started with that. And then create documentation. So let's do some unit tests and then move on to deployment, try to deploy it, and then go and iterate and fix things if we have time. So what I'll do now is I'll create a new chat again. I want to start working on task 6 unit tests. Okay, let's start testing. I don't think it has the right... We don't have a virtual environment. Let's see how it copes with it. We'll probably err on... Oh, no, it did. All right. All tests passed. I have no idea what these tests are doing. Okay, so this is where I think we're going too far. I won't accept the changes until we see that it actually passes. Again, I think this is an overkill. Okay, we have 2 fitting tests. Let's see what it did here. Yeah. Yeah, you can see it added a lot more tests, and they were failing, and now it fixes it. So sometimes what will happen is that instead of updating the code, it will update the tests, which is not necessarily good, but in this case, we're good. Okay, task number 6 is complete. We tested everything, and now we need to create a deploy script. And I'm guessing once we deploy everything, things will break. So let me add, suggest the files update the next. Yeah, it thinks that we should go back to task 5, but no, really, I want to move on to the next, to task 7. So please get a list of tasks, just to see that the next task is 7, just to show you the functionality. Let's start working on task 7. Do you think we should break it down to subtasks? Oh, we already have some subtasks for task number 7, the deploy script. Okay, it picks up, this is really nice, it picks up that it is dependent on task number 5, and it's a little concerned. So update task status immediately since the script is already remove, add a few refinement subtasks. Okay, for now, I don't think tasks 5 is a blocker. Okay, we can move on with task 7. I think we can start testing the deployment script. So let's do a profile. Make sure we're working on the right profile. And then we want to deploy SH. Let's see what happens. Let's go over the actual resources here. Always go over the resources it will create. Don't trust the AI. Yes, let's go ahead and continue. Let's see what happens. Let's go over the account just to see that we created the right resources and everything was created. Yeah, we have this code. Remember, I haven't changed the actual, you know what, let's change it. I know this is not a great thing to do. Okay, this is not the way to do it, but I don't care. I want to change the mapping of the account. So let's do this account is dev. Deploy. Okay, so now we assume that if I create a resource and without tags, so let's go to EC2. Let's see what happens. So I'll create an instance, and I won't give it any demo server. Let's create a demo server. I don't have any keys. Proceed without key. I don't need a key. And let's create it, and let's see if we somehow trigger the Lambda function. Instance, go to tags, and nothing here yet because this is not working. And we can see there were no, there was one invocation. So maybe it took a while. We see that we had one invocation. We have one log stream. It ran, and we have some errors. So let's get all these logs to Cursor and see what happened. Okay, back here. I created a new instance without any tags, and the function seemed to run, but with an see, this is where it gets really fast and really nice to use this tool. So okay, it wants to deploy it. I want to do, so let's review the file. Sorry, terminal here is too big. Okay. Let's accept that. And you know what? Again, I want to, actually, sorry, that's not the file. Not Terraform. I want the SRC. Let's update the account name. Okay, adding the account ID. And let it deploy. Okay. Okay, so let's go back and try to create another instance. Okay, let's go back here. Demo server 2. I want to proceed without any keys, and let's see what happens. I don't have my hopes up. Not at all. Let's see, we'll probably have a different stream. Yep. Oh, and we have another error. And again. And back to Cursor. Same error. Oh, well, this is making big changes. Again, I don't have my hopes up, but let's see if it works. Let's create a third instance. And go look at the logs. Let's wait for the new log group. Do we have one? Same log group. Okay, successfully applied tags. And we see that we have the environment is dev, just like we wanted to do it, and then the owner is unknown. And I expected that because we need to go back to task number 5 and actually improve our logic. Maybe we need some mapping between the users. We can do a lot of things. The idea is that we can now go update task number 5 and actually ensure that we have the right mapping for everything. And you can see that it took me about 1 hour to actually accomplish this. In the video, of course, I skipped a few parts where we were waiting. But this is great. We have, if we go back to the actual code, right, we have a full project with Git, with a deploy script, with Terraform, with unit tests, and a very good README file. And this is something that we accomplished in 1 hour that I promise you would take you way, way longer, and the quality will not be there. So I know, yeah, vibe coding is bad. Yeah, sure. But it does get the job done. And in most cases, probably better than what you would have done. I'm going to end the video here. And I know we haven't gone back to task number 5 and actually tweaked and improved our tagging abilities and fine-grained it and update the mapping and added more resources other than EC2 instances, EBS volumes, and etc. But I hope that by watching this video, you now have better tools to actually accomplish this. So I wanted to show you, first of all, that you should implement auto tagging in your account, and that it is a task that shouldn't take you too long, right? It took me about an hour to do all these things. And we now have a big project that has everything in it. We have unit tests, we have deploy scripts, we have infrastructure as code, and you can just go now and iterate. I will definitely share the prompt, but again, this is something that you can do and should do on your own and tweak it to your specific environment. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned. I will have more videos in the future, in the near future, specifically on how to save cost on your AWS account. And we'll have more vibe coding sessions, I guess, if you liked it. Let me know if you actually want more videos just like this. Okay, bye everyone.